Hello and welcome back. I got these coaches a few weeks back from the TCS show. I'm just going to tap the wheels out of them. I won't follow it through step by step, but and then we'll get them all cleaned up because I want to see it running with that Princess, and I think it's going to be quite nice. So just using an old axle there, just as a means of tapping those out of there. It's a little bit fiddly, but once you get them out, you'll be able to give them a good clean over. We'll just give that one more tap. See if I can line that up. There we go, we've got that. We'll just give that another gentle tap. There we go. So, and then that's just come through the other side, and we'll be able to remove those. So I'll go ahead and take the rest of those out of there. But I'm just using a hole in the bench. Let me just grab another camera for a second. There we go. So I've got a hole drilled through this mat, and also a corresponding hole in the workbench underneath. And the axles just drop straight through because I've taken many of these out now, and they're quite successful. You can see the sort of condition that's in. I'm going to have to do a little bit of work on that coupling too. So I'll take the rest of those out, and we'll get the wheels cleaned up, and then we'll have a look at them when they go back in. So there, I've got the wheels out of that one now, and you can see there's quite a lot of dirt and stuff underneath there to get out. You've got Triangle's name there. It's gone a great deal quieter now than the earlier section. The 3D printers finally stopped. We'll have a look at what I was printing there. So I also use this screwdriver, which is quite nice for pushing out the wheels. It's exactly the right width to go through the axles. I can't remember the size of blade on this screwdriver, but it is a very good, what used to be printed on there. But I will also use this, let's see if we can, I can't quite pick that one up. So there we go, this drill bit here, which I use also. So a variety of things for knocking these wheels out. Some come out easier than others. I think that's a 2mm drill bit, but obviously no good for doing any drilling anymore. Also, I forgot to say, you need to try and knock them out the correct way round. So if we have a look here, I don't know whether we can get focus there. Let's see if we can encourage that to go on there. So that wheel there runs freely up and down the axle. If I turn that around there, and the other one there, when you move it up and down, can I get that to move up and down? There we go. There's not a very good demonstration there, so we can see that. So that comes up and down. So that wheel's attached to the axle. Let's just grab one of these axles here. So these axles have, let's see if we can encourage some focus on here again. So these axles have like a spline on them. I don't know whether we can see that, if I got the right way up. So I'm looking through the back of the camera there, that one's got the spline on it. If I just rotate that there, I don't think I can get that any closer to this particular camera. And that fixes itself to the wheel, so one spins freely around the axle and the other one spins with the axle. So it's important to knock it out so that the splined one comes out first through the axle. So the spline, let's do that so that you knock it out that way. Otherwise, it's very difficult to take them out, and you're at more risk of damaging the axle. So which way around are we here? So that definitely feels like a free running one there. Let's see if that's the case. Yeah. So yeah, I can move that wheel up and down, and the axle sort of stays put. So if I move that back wheel, yeah, there you go. So that axle's attached to that one. So we'll tap that one out that way. So I really will just do this one, and then we'll cut back to it once I have all of these out. Let's try the screwdriver this time. See if we can just push this one down and start that off. So let's give that a gentle push. So I think that's going to that might be better with a bit of a tap on it. So let's get the correct axle. That's one I've taken out, so we won't use that one. That's the one I was using to knock them out with. So we won't push it in spline end first. I think we're lined up with the hole there. We'll start that off and see if we can get that to gently tap out. So let's just check how we're going. Yeah, so that's coming away through there. Let's see if we can line that up again. So you need to get it lined up, otherwise you're going to smash the wheel. It'd be nice if they just came out all in the one go, but sometimes they require a little bit of work, and it's definitely easier doing it whilst you're not trying to use a camera. Let's see if we can push that one. There we go. So that's just pushed. My fingers are in the way, so that one's just pushed through. So as I say, the more oil that's been on these over the years, the tougher they sort of, it turns into glue, and they sort of lock up solid. So I'll go ahead and get the rest of those out of there. So there, I've cleaned up the ends of these couplings, all the rusty parts with a little file and the wire brush on the rotary tool. Quite carefully gone over those. And I had a bit of a go on both ends of that. I don't know whether we're getting any focus here at all. Let's see if we can refocus in that area there. And I'll black those up a little bit later on. But the bogies there, I think we'll just use this plastic brush, dip it in a little bit of that's just a pledge. And I think that'll liven these bogies up a little bit and bring them back to looking a little bit tidier. Try not to get any of that on the coach itself, but that's how I'll attack that. We'll use the word attack, and I think that'll bring it up quite nicely. So I'll go ahead and do that. I'll get that all done, and then we'll have a look at getting those wheels back in. So we'll just pop that to one side, and just have a quick look at these axles. So there's an axle there, and I think that's a residue there from oil. So let's just put a little bit of petrol on this cotton bud here, and we'll see. There we go. Again, this is all much easier without when you haven't got the camera there, so you can see stuff just coming away there. I don't know. Let's see if I can again encourage this to focus in a bit better place there. So some of that is going to come off, and then you can have a go with a glass fibre pen, and that'll clean the rest of that up. And you could put this axle in a rotary tool and just run over it with a glass fibre pen, and it'll bring it like a mirror surface on it. So I suppose there is a number of other ways you could do that, but that's the way I've been choosing to do that. And you get those axles nice and shiny again. So obviously ones that are completely rusty you may have to replace. But the wheels, let's just grab another cotton bud here. So that's a sort of solution of soapy water and shower cleaner I quite like to clean the wheels with. Ideally I would like to sort of soak these in water overnight, but when you're in a hurry perhaps you might just want to go over them like that. It might require a bit more hard work. Soaking them in water overnight, the dirt just tends to float off, although these are cleaning up quite nicely. I don't know whether I've got focus here at all. So yeah, so that one's going to clean up relatively well there. So I think already that's quite an improvement. And again, cleaning around the backs of the wheels, getting the dust and the cobwebs out, and through the sleeve there. I don't know whether I thought I had a pipe cleaner here, so running a pipe cleaner through that is going to help things. And also this screwdriver, which I was using earlier, which is 2mm, that's quite nice just to run through there and sort of clean up any sort of oil which is solidified on the inside. It tends to bring that away quite nicely if you do that carefully through there, and you will end up with eventually, if you work at it. Whoops. Let's see if we can grab that one there. You'll end up with hopefully nice smooth running wheels. So although one side will not be smooth because it's on the spline section. So yeah, that's promising. So it just needs a little bit more work there, I think. So if I can find the pipe cleaner, let's give that a go as well. So let's run that through there. Again, hopefully we've got to focus here. Let's see if we can encourage my phone back over there again. A little bit of petrol on there doesn't harm. You can choose whatever cleaning products you feel more comfortable using. There's a great variety out of them there. As long as it's not melting the item, I think we'll be all right. Yeah, so that's already running much freer. So I think I'm going to run this screwdriver back through. I can see fluff on there, which probably isn't helping matters. So that already just feels much nicer on there. So we'll get that in there. So it's a sort of time-consuming process. Let's see. We'll get some focus back over there. It keeps jumping all over the place. So there, that's now running really quite nice. It's never going to be sort of like it's on a bull race, but free running is what we're after here. I thought we'd better just look at the set of wheels I've cleaned up there. So those are the ones for one of the coaches there, and there's a set from the other coach which haven't been cleaned yet. So there's quite a difference can be made. So it does take time. So let's have a look at that. So that rolls really nice and free now. So we'll get those back in the coach. The coach, I am just going to, I've waited till the end to, I'm going to give it a very light wipe on the outside. I'm not going to do anything too aggressive to that. I don't want to shift any more of that yellow out of that heat printing. I want to try and keep as much of that intact as possible. So I'll probably just use like a cotton bud with a wet wipe around the window frames and so on. And I've still got those buffers just to clean up. I've just blacked up those couplings, so hopefully we've got a few more years in those before they rot away. So I've done some in the past, and it seems to stop it going any further, really. I know it's not a chemical fix or anything, but we could replace the couplings if necessary, but I think they're going to be fine for what I have in mind. So we'll get that back together. Time is really marching on this afternoon. So there we go. I got that one all cleaned up and on the rails, but time is marching on so rapidly. All of my Sunday, this is Sunday the 20th of November, so I've got the Princess out of that RO set we saw a couple of weeks ago, and the two coaches that came with that, they're slightly older, I think. The couplings have a slight difference. Let's have a quick look, see if I can undo that one whilst we're here. Wrong hand for this. So if we have a look at that coupling's got the striker on the bottom of it, that sort of half moon shape, and the couplings on these ones, I don't know, can we see that? Let's bring that into a place where we can see it. So they don't have the striker, so I think these are early. I think these are probably acetate, and the other ones are probably just plastic, a polystyrene type plastic that hasn't distorted quite as much as these. So let me see if I can get those coupled up again. I had all those coupled quite nicely. So this is the one. Let me rotate the camera. I'm going to struggle with that. So I've got that one all cleaned up now and back together. So I've still got the other one on the bench here. So I'll get that one all tidied up and the wheels done. But I thought I'd just shoot this part of the video because it's going to be a couple of days now before I get to get the Plunger Princess out, which is what I think we want to have a look at. But we'll just have a look at this and a couple of things before I have to go and do other things for the evening. So I've been at this all day. A number of things have happened on the railway. All good, all nice progress, but so much time has elapsed. So let's get that on there. So let's give that the once around. So let's give that a little power now. So shall we get it emerging out of the other end of the station there? So are we going to go the correct direction? Here she comes. Beautiful model, this. Has a lovely feel on the rails. Past that pile of boxes. I think I left all the points the correct way round. It will run through that tunnel. And past the station. Sorry, not past it, through it. And it'll come round here. You can see the elevated section we had a glance at before. But if I stop that there, I've got a new set of points in here. I'm just going to put this controller down. So I can now go from the outside line to the inside line. Involved a little bit of wiring as well. So I've got that point running through there, and it crosses over into there. So let's continue with that. And you can see I've done a little bit more with the elevated section. We'll have a glance at that in a moment. Let's bring her under there. Hopefully all these coaches will stay coupled up. I have had a couple of phantom uncouplings when I was testing this. A little bit of a clank there, but remember how crude these wheels are. So if I've left that right, that'll go all the way around the inside there and into that siding next to the tanker train. I think that's going to look terrific with 4 of those coaches on. And we'll just run that to the end of the siding. So all of that is fed from the one power feed, and let's have a look at that power feed that's selected at the moment is not the one we can see just over the edge of the table there, but one just the other side of the elevated section. I don't know whether I can zoom in. So all of that crotchety old Series 3 track that I've cleaned up and fiddled with. So all those fish plates doing pretty good job, but I think if I pin this down I will make the effort and put some other feeds in just to improve it, because we definitely are losing a little by the time you get to the end of that siding. Just think of the number of points that's come through there. So I think that's quite impressive. But and we just put that controller down just out of the way there, so I don't actually, let me put it down there, down there, down there. Indecision, but what I don't want to do is trip over it. So elevated section here. So I think I'd got it to this section last week in the video. Well, not last week, I think earlier this week when I made the last video. And then I'd got it stopped here, I think, or there. Short memory again. And I was experimenting with making these parts. So there'd been a number of variations I've made. So this has ended up working quite well. There's always a problem where you want to span something. You think, I'll just go over there, and it doesn't just go over there when you use the. Let's grab some of the originals here. So. Yeah, that's an original high-level R.74 and an earlier variant of it. So I've come up with this, and I'm quite pleased with that. It represents a fair bit of time. And you can see I've got another one in place here. Just haven't got the sidewalls in there. And this one here is one, sort of an R.74, but I've adapted it because it just needs to stand. See, I've narrowed the legs. It isn't glued together properly yet. It's just standing in position. So ideally, when I get around to it, I'm going to put a point in here, and you can see how that's going to work. So there's a little bit of fiddling to go in there. So ideally, that will go in there, and that will give me my access to the sidings in this area here. So that's all going to work quite nicely. As to the elevated section, where it's going to go, I don't know how I'm going to do with this, but my intention is to, employing the 3D printer, is to adapt some supports, and we're going to run along here, so we have one elevated line running along there. That's a plan. I don't know how long it'll take me to do it, but I've been playing with measurements and things, and I think I can make that work. But yeah, so earlier in the video when I was hammering the wheels out of that train, the 3D printer was just printing one of these, which is a final section to go in, and another one I've printed here, so it's printed in parts and I'll have to assemble it. So we'll get that together, and that should all look pretty good. But it's quite a bit of work. So let's just take that off there. I think what we'll do for now is we'll just see if we can back that. Actually, no, let's see if we can move this Duchess under here as well, just while we're at it. So let's see that Duchess. So imagine one train on top of the other going down there. I think that would be quite impressive. So we've got clearance, but what I'm not going to get, especially on the Series 3, is catenary under there. But I think I did say that perhaps we wouldn't go with catenary this time around, but because we've had plenty of catenary in the past, so let's have a look at that. Again, struggling with focus today. But that's going to be pretty good under there, I think. Let's just see if we can back out this Princess and see how these coaches do going backwards over the point work. Let's grab this. So let's make that go backwards. Pretty good so far. So if that derails, I think what we'll do, we'll just cut to the bit where I've got the other coach done. I'm turning the controller the wrong way there. Just making my head work. Let's see how we do coming through this point work. So if I just swivel the camera around again, let's bring the Princess back towards us through there and see what sort of clearance we've got. So here she comes. So I think that's pretty good in there, and we'll go back again. Ooh, off round the elevated section there, through the tunnel. And will I get that to come all the way back round to the 00 station? Turning the controller the wrong way. So there it comes. We'll come down, see it come under the canopy here. And there we go. So I'll get that other coach back together, and I'll get the Plunger Princess out, and we'll have a quick look over that. So there is my Plunger Princess. It's not that happy on the rails, and you can get it to charge around, but there's almost no traction with the plastic wheels, and it doesn't like changing into reverse. Let's give that a go. And we'll go forwards again. Let's see if we can get that one more time around. It doesn't like the curves, but the wheels are terribly distorted. Let's just bring that round, and it's made it over the points. I'm not sure whether that will go round backwards. Let's see if we can get that to happen. No, it doesn't like that curve there. So let's see if we can just encourage that back into action one more time. You see that? No traction with those plastic wheels whatsoever. So I think that's probably enough of that, and we'll just pop the controller down for a second, and we'll lift the models off and have a quick look at it. So let me just grab a screwdriver as well. Let's lift the tender, and we'll lift these over into this area over here, and we'll grab the main part of the locomotive, and we'll just have a quick look over it. So there is a fair amount of distortion on it, and that should have the front steps a little bit like this locomotive over here. Let's have a look at this other early Princess we were just looking at a little earlier in the video. So I thought it would be a few days before I got back to this, so we're now Wednesday the 22nd. See how that's got steps on it there? So I think the Plunger Princess has lost her steps. So I think that model from around the date in the box, I think it was 1953, August 53. I looked at it and put it in the corner of the screen, but you'll see that in an earlier video. But she's got the detailing intact on the back of the locomotive, that great big long drawbar there. And now we can see the plungers. Look at that significant wear in the surfaces of those. Now I cleaned those up, they were shiny and bright with the glass fibre pen before I was using that, and that one on the right hand side there is picking up a lot of tarnishing and sort of deposits already, isn't it? And there's barely any sort of pressure there. It's very, very light. We'll have a look. Let's pop that down so I don't drop that, and we'll just have a quick look. I'll just zoom in a little and see if we can get a better look at those wheels. So let's have a look at that. So I believe those wheels are actually distorted as well, and obviously not a great deal of traction. Now the body has had a bit of lead added to it to increase traction, or to keep the tail end of it down and improve electrical pickup. But if I just grab a screwdriver and let's see if we can quickly whip the top off this. While we're at it, here's that chassis I got from the train show the other day, and it's had its motor removed. We'll come back to that in a second. And there's another chassis I bought individually as well, which is, as we'll see in a moment, has a slightly different motor in it. So let's grab the screwdriver and see if we can take off the top of this one-handed. It comes off relatively easily. Let's see if we can get that. I'll just listen for the thread to... Yeah, I think we're there now. That's just rotating, so ideally one-handed I'll be able to separate that. No, I thought that thread had separated. We'll give it another couple of turns there. If I can't do this one-handed, we'll just cut away from this, and we'll come back to it with the top off. No, I can't do that one-handed, so we'll come back to this one. I've just released that screw. There we go. I think the screw was undone. The bodywork just needed a little bit more of a tug than I could make happen with the one hand. So let's have a quick look at the motor. So if you look in there, it's got the unusual design of the motor. So that commutator is the other way around, isn't it? It's flat. So it's quite an interesting little thing. And you see the top end of those plungers, and the motor is built it's partially incorporated into the chassis. If you look behind this center wheel here, you can see that there's like let's see if we can come round a little bit more into the light there perhaps. You can see there's where the plate of the front plate of the motor is incorporated into the chassis. So whilst you can undo the magnet at the back there, it doesn't undo the motor. So the motor is semi-integral to the chassis. So to replace it, you'd have to dismantle the chassis as well, sort of relax it so you could move it apart. And the other one, let's just grab these together here. So the other Plunger Princess chassis I've got here, perhaps we should zoom in a little bit. You can see this has sort of got that unusual design of brushes there without carbon ends on it by the looks of it. I know the brushes are facing that way onto the commutator, and this one's got the more sort of the later style, so what look like the normal sort of brushes we have in a XO4 type motor. So again, that motor is semi-incorporated into the chassis. And this one that I got the other day, which is missing all its connection rods and its motor. Let's jump up here, and if we look down into the chassis there, you can see the holes there where somebody's removed, probably taken the motor for another model perhaps. But if we have a look at these wheels, these plastic wheels on here, we'll just roll this. Let's have a look down from above here. And you see the wobble in those. So there's definitely some distortion gone on in the materials used there. So there isn't an awful lot of traction available there. Let's just pop this one on, and we'll see if we can get that one to run. And again, it coughs and splutters. But somebody's done a little bit more sort of soldering and experimentation with this one by the looks of it over the years. And I found this one on eBay for not very much. There we go. Let me see if we can grab the controls of that one, see if we can get this one to jump into life for a moment. Apparently not. Let's give that another go. There we have it. And then will it go backwards? Whoops. There was a nice spark on something now. Did you notice that? Let's get that back on there, like that. Yeah, definitely more hesitant, this one. Let's give that a little bit more of an encouragement. It really doesn't want to go at the moment. So again, not as happy as they could be, but I think it's quite amazing that they do actually run after all of this time. It's a very, very sort of dodgy system of the Plunger pickup. But if you get that on the rolling road with crocodile clips onto the plungers, that will run all day long. So let's have a look at that one again. You can see the wear and tear on those plungers there. So it's definitely had a bit of track time, that, hasn't it? But I think that's probably enough of that. So pop that down there. And put that one back on there. I think they're just sort of nice items to have for the collection. And I think we were saying that somebody's tried to remove these weights as well here on this one. They've removed the ends of that. I think that it is riveted. Let's have a look at the other side of this one. Let's turn it around there. Yeah, that's sort of a riveting effect, isn't it? It's been passed through. And on this one as well, I always wondered whether that worm is so close to the bottom of that weight, but the motor does seem to turn freely. It doesn't seem to bind on it, but it's incredibly close. I think they were just quite interesting items to look at. Let's pop that back over here, and then we'll have a look at the tender. So look at that coupling on the back there. So that's the earlier style coupling. So I believe this Princess is probably from the early 50s, from possibly what's called the Rovex set. So I don't know the exact dates, but we'll just have a look at this book. See, there's a little bit of a bend in there. That metal is very soft, but I think it's best left alone, to be honest. I don't want to try and straighten that out. And let's have a quick look over this bodywork. So again, no metal safety valves. You've just got these little plastic parts here representing those, perhaps. Looks to be acetate. And we'll roll that over. You can see there where the steps have been snapped away. So there doesn't seem to be any names printed on the inside of this. And if you look in there, we do have that weight which has been bonded in there with something black. So it's significantly heavy on the back end of it there. So let's just look round the other side of it there. A little bit of cab detail there. So I think that transferred across to the later Princesses. The body was modified over the years. Let's have a quick look at the nameplate there. Front of that smoke box door again. Will we grab in focus? So we'll just pop that down. So I'll reassemble that another time, but let's have a quick look at this. So this is the Triang Hornby Book of Trains from the late 60s. And it does show a Plunger Princess, or possibly what might be called a roller Princess. If we have a look at that, it's got rollers at the back rather than plungers. And here is the information here. It says R.20, 462 Princess Elizabeth. The first model was designed in 1949 and produced in 1950. Production continued until 1963, although the name was changed to Princess Victoria. So I believe there are the different variants of the Plunger Princess available. The early ones had the roller there, but I think once we get into the Triang Railways period, the Princess became more what we see over here. So there were modifications made. Obviously, metal wheels was a huge advantage, and I think this is quite an early one. And I think I just said earlier, I think the date in the box lid from the set this came from is 1953, but again, memory's not holding up quite there, so I'll pop that in the corner of the screen and put a picture of the date. So I did go ahead and get the other coach sorted out that we had on the bench earlier. So I spent a nice evening and got that done. So that's all quite nice. I haven't seen if it'll pull the whole rake of those. So that one's cleaned up fairly nicely. So we'll get that on there and have a look. And also I managed to get that other bit of we were looking at the elevated section. So I managed to get the other bits of support sorted out and get that in there. So I was quite pleased with that, although the piece of track I've got at the end here hasn't been prepared yet. That's just a rough piece. So the rest of the track has been prepared. So if we look at the rail heads there, that needs a little bit of work to get those into a condition where we may be able to use it a bit more practically. So let's spin round here and we'll grab the controls. We'll swap that over so we can use the other line. There we go. That's on handheld. I forgot. In all my excitement over the Princess there, I forgot about the early coaches as well. Now it simply will not pull those. I mean, the axles have been cleaned and they do roll a little bit, but the wheels are far from round as far as I can see. And again, it's got those corresponding couplings on here. So let's just grab the tender. We'll just have a look at the absolutely superb distortion in those. Let me pull the other one along so we can have a look at it. So isn't that wonderful? I think that's absolutely amazing. And there's that coupling in action between the two there. Actually, I'm just going to move this other locomotive chassis away, and we'll just pop that along there a little bit. And if I put the tender on there and move that hook up, there we go. So the early style couplings, I don't know how long. Whoops, that's just jumped the rails there. I don't know how long those were in action for. There is an illustration in that book of trains which I had meant to show you, so we'll jump back to that in a second. So short memory there. So again, these coaches are definitely suffered from the shrinkage. And I think somebody's taken the bogies off these. I'm unsure. I think they have, because they're not riveted on. I have an idea they should be riveted, but they've got this sort of like japanned screws there, so I don't know whether they're machine screws or wood type screws. I haven't taken the top off the locomotive. You can see the axles, not the axles, the sleeved wheels are that much earlier design. And we also don't have any name on the bottom there. I don't know whether there would have originally been a transfer with Rovex on it. Possibly, I'm unsure. We'll have a quick glance at the other one. Not quite as much warping on this one, but again, it's had the same treatment. They were bought as a pair. So there we can see that hook on one end of the bogie there. So the bogie is a different casting for each end of the model. So it's lovely with that little counterweight on it there. Let's just pop that down there and have a look at that. Let's see if I can zoom you in a little bit more. See that sort of counterweight there to keep it in the upright position. And I think they're quite splendid things, but I don't think we'll be getting an awful lot of running. Sorry, I'm pointing in the wrong place there. I don't think we'll be getting an awful lot of running. Of course, the coaches could have only been used the one way around there. So let's pop that way. There we go. It's quite an effective coupling. But I think it's quite susceptible to damage made in this soft material. That one's a little bit too low, so we'll help that one into position. Let's grab this book again and we'll have a quick look at the illustration for the coupling. There we go. Mark 1 weighted hook on the left-hand vehicle was depressed on contacting the loop. It was not possible to uncouple automatically, and the vehicles could not be reversed in relation to each other. So there we have the picture there, and then we have the later Mark II style coupling. I think there's some variations on the design of that, as well as variations on the design of the Mark III style coupling as well. Yeah, almost forgot that. So we were just about to get this Princess on the go here. Let's grab the controller. I think we're all set. Let's zoom out a little bit, I think, so we can get the full effect of her moving away. So we'll give that a little bit of power. So we've got the full rake there. And away she goes. Now I think I've left all the point work set correctly. Should we bring that to a stop in the trying station? There we go. We'll just flip round to the front and just have a look at her as she emerges from the station. Whoops, lost sight there. And it's going to jump under the elevated section now. I think we'll just do the one once more round and we'll probably call that it for today. But thanks again for taking the time to watch. The video's turned into a little bit longer than I'd thought again. But they really are quite lovely items, these. Let's see if we can just... Whoops, we've had a complete separation from the coaches there. Let's see if we can get a gentle couple back up. So I was just going to flip the camera around and we'll come down low and see if we can inspect those couplings there, see if we've really got a good... Yeah, that'll probably do it. Let's come down low as we come under this new sort of elevated section here. And look at the clearance on the new bits I've put in. There we go. Works quite well. Let's just stop that there and we'll just pan back around to where she's coming, where this train's coming underneath. So we've got that clearance under those new spanned bits. I'm probably using the wrong word there. So let's just back that up and bring the princess back in. There we go, and we'll just roll her forward. A dodgy place to stop on the points. And then we'll just drop that into the station. And again, I was in the middle of saying goodbye and I got distracted, but thanks again for watching. Goodbye now.